I mean, it strikes me that this is still a kind of in-principle thing that may open up doors and help to provide solutions in the future. But in the meantime, surely the problems we face immediately in our economies, in our businesses, in terms of the models that we have, the sort of where are we getting power from? We can't even persuade the Green lobby in the UK to think about nuclear. Nuclear is, as far as I'm aware with Jim Lovelock, an absolute starting point. Is that right, Jim?
Well, I think it's a case of horses for courses. The United Kingdom is a special case. We are already a very crowded country. We're almost becoming one big city in many ways. That's one reason why it's so difficult to drive here. It's all city driving all the time. As things grow worse with climate change, people are going to be migrating here because the United Kingdom is one of the few very favoured places in the world in view of climate change. It's an oceanic island group and will suffer less from a heating planet than almost anywhere else. There are other islands, of course, that will do as well as us, but we're an example. So our problem is going to be overcrowding more than almost anything. People will flood here. And Europeans, of course, have a complete right to come here. So we're going to become one vast city. And cities are absolutely, utterly dependent on supplies of energy. A big city like London would die within a week and become something like one of those camps in Darfur if electricity were just cut off for 1 week. It's that serious a thing. And there is only one steady, regular, safe source of electricity that we can use, and that's nuclear. All others pale in insignificance in quantitative terms with it for the UK. We could, of course, continue to burn coal, oil or gas, but then we are merely compounding the problem of the world. And also, as time goes by, supplies of those fuels will get more and more expensive and difficult to obtain. But we do have plenty of nuclear energy and we should use it. Now, what I've said does not apply worldwide. Obviously, some other nations like Norway can run entirely on hydroelectricity, others like Iceland on geothermal energy. And in many of the hotter parts of the world, like the United States, I think that energy supplies like solar thermal will provide most of the energy that they need. Nuclear will be useful to supplement it, but nowhere perhaps it's quite as dependent on a need for it as we are. And I think the Greens do a great disservice to our future if they continue with their objections.
Thank you. Prince Carlos, did I see you shaking your head?
Well, there's practicality and there's idealism in both, but it also depends a bit on what model you follow. If we continue following the centralized production model and then distribution through a network to a finer and finer network to the houses and businesses, then I agree that this is you need a base load carrier, and that could be nuclear. But if you turn the system on its head and you go off-grid to off-grid solutions or to local grid solutions, then that is not necessary at all. I think that's where sustainable energy solutions will come into their strength when it's an off-grid or reverse grid solution, meaning that from small it gets brought to a local level, from a local to a provincial level, provincial to a. And if we can turn that system on its head, it's not easy because the status quo of the power companies is enormous, and their power and their capacity is enormous. But off-grid solutions, I think, and turning the grid upside down are two ways of looking at the power problem and the civilization problem.
Is this what you mean by disruptive?
Well, this would be one of the disruptive technologies. Disruptive means, it's not I didn't coin this term. I picked it up somewhere, but I don't remember where. The idea is that if you come up with a solution and a workable business solution with a certain product, for example, LED lighting. We started that 15 years ago, and none of the big companies, and I was in the boardrooms, was talking to the CEOs and the directors, none of them even wanted to hear about it. No, incandescent, in the worst case, a bit of CFL, compact fluorescent light bulbs. That's it, and stop pestering us, you young blonde silly fool. There's absolutely no reason to go that way. So after thinking about it for a while, we started a company who started building the things and started selling them. And at a certain point, we did a very good marketing campaign. So, this is possible, and we're actually selling these things. We're making money, which wasn't quite true. We were just keeping our heads above the... But it made enough noise that Philips then said, well, maybe we're missing the boat here. I mean, these guys are definitely onto something. What it was, they were unsure. So they went off and they bought for $2 billion gem lighting in the US. They went off and bought about 15 smaller LED producing companies in Europe. And when they started doing that...
That's LED, isn't it?
LEDs, yeah LEDs. When they did that, suddenly Osram said, if Philips is doing that, there must be something to this little LED technology. Let's do it as well. And now GE has jumped on the bandwagon. Well, 4 years ago, they said, never, not on our lives. It's a dead-end technology. And, well, here it is. Dead as you can be. And uses 4 watts, gives about 40 watts of light. Can be used completely off-grid in combination with solar. So you can have reading sessions at night in Africa. We're doing this together with the World Bank and a couple of other institutions, microcredit institutions, and G24 here in England, which is a solar solar panel maker. And together, these are bringing light to a continent that doesn't even have a grid. After 100 years of having electricity, we haven't even managed to put a grid in Africa. Well, they can just skip that whole phase, like they skipped the telephone phase and went straight to mobile telephones with this type of light.
Jim, are you convinced?
I wish I were. I think it's a wonderful idea, and I wish I could get hold of these. We'd have them in our home. But I think the best way to answer your question is to go to France. One of the delights of going to France is you can travel anywhere by train, knowing that you're not putting an ounce of carbon dioxide into the air. It's all either nuclear or hydro. And also, perhaps this isn't a very good thing to say, you never worry much in France about turning the light off, because you're not really doing any harm, you're just costing money. This is not true anywhere else. And I think that we just don't have time to install this kind of, well, this we can, but off-grid technology in a whole tight, small nation like the UK. I don't think we'll be rich enough to do it. We've got to go live with the system we've got and upgrade our power stations. I think that's our only option, really.
This kind of technology pays itself back within a year, year
sure,
and a half.
we by all means use this as well, but not use off-grid as a replacement for on-grid, so to speak. Let them evolve together and the best one win in the end. But in the meanwhile, as with the old saying goes, while the grass is growing, the cow's dying, and that, I think, is the problem that faces us.